Hi, I'm Kayla Ali, and welcome back to the Oddly Perspective. Man, have I been watching so much basketball. March Madness is officially over, and we now have a new NCAA women's basketball champion, the Uconn Huskies, who went on to win their 12th national championship. And also give a shout out to the Florida Gators men's team for winning the NCAA men's tournament. But I want to talk a little bit more about UConn and what they did. UConn has a big three, right? With Paige Beckers, Sarah Strong, AZ Fudd. This is the first time really that we're seeing a fully healthy AZ Fudd in the tournament. And before the tournament even started, Gino already said that AZ was going to be the X factor for the team. She was the missing link that they had been missing all these years into finally winning a national championship again. And she proved that she was the missing link. First game in the tournament, she drops 27. Then in the next two to three games, she kind of dips off a little bit. And then in the semifinals, she only scored 6 points. But 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 both of those threes that she hit in that fourth quarter were very important for the Huskies, and especially to go on and to win the national championship. Okay. But first, let's talk about Paige Beckers, who is going to be the number one overall pick in the WNBA draft. Okay. She averaged 20 points in the tournament, including three games where she scored over 30 points. She had 34 against South Dakota State. She had 40 points against Oklahoma and 31 against USC. She was also close to becoming the first player in all of basketball ever to finish 40, 50, and 90. But if I'm not mistaken, she ended up 46, 52, and 85. So she was very close to being the only basketball player to ever accomplish that in a season. But she missed it just by this much, okay? And I want to give a shout out to her because she decided to come back after losing last year in the Final Four. And she decided to come back for another year because she dealt with injuries all her career too. So it was finally good to see her in a space where she can be the player that we all knew her to be. Last tournament, I felt like she passed the ball a lot more and tried to facilitate and let her teammates shine as opposed to taking the game over. And in those three games where she scored over 30 points, she really took the game over and became the catalyst for her team. Okay, but she didn't do it alone. She also had help from the National Freshman of the Year in Sarah Strong, who was the number one recruit in the 2024 class. And exactly 1 year later from the date that she decided to commit to UConn, she won a national championship. She averaged 16 points per game, shooting over 50%. She becomes the highest scoring freshman in an NCAA tournament in UConn history, beating out the great, I think, my GOAT, Maya Moore. Sarah Strong is one of those players where she can score all three phases. She is strong in the paint, has great footwork in the paint. Her mid range is good, and she shoots high quality threes. She doesn't shoot a lot in the game. She's averaging about 6 attempts a game, and she can make about 50% of those. Um, she's also a great foul shooter. We saw early in the season where the team needed her to make foul shots, and she didn't, and they ended up losing that game. So now she looks way more confident on the line. Matter of fact, during this entire tournament, she did not look like a freshman at all. She was always in control. She didn't let anybody speed her up. She played her game the way she knew how, and it showed, and she shined. She, I know Dawn wishes she could have get her. I mean, there was a strong connection between Dawn and her mom. They played together in the pros, and she's right there from North Carolina. But ultimately, she decided to go to UConn, and that has paid off for her. And then next, like I said again, I'm going back to AZ Fudd. AZ Fudd averaged 13 points per game during the tournament, scoring 24 points in the championship game. So after her only scoring 6 in the previous game, she scored 24, and she really was the X factor for Connecticut for me. Her release is so quick. I mean, she has one of the prettiest jump shots I've ever seen. I understand why Curry decided to sign her. The Yukon Huskies, and I'm they're going to be definitely another team to watch next year. Sierra Strong will be a sophomore. AZ Fudd has decided to not go into the WNBA draft this year and decided to stay. I'm pretty sure we'll see Uconn also hit the transfer portal like other teams have done so far. But they're definitely a team on the lookout. And let's be on the lookout for Sarah Strong and AZ Fudd being a top duo in women's college basketball next year. And also, once again, congratulations to Gino Auriemma for winning his 12th national championship. If I'm not mistaken, no other coach in NCAA history has as many championships as he has, especially at one university. Okay, now to the team that is near and dear to my heart, the South Carolina Gamecocks. Okay, now I am a Uconn fan. I've been a Uconn fan since Maya Moore and Tina Charles. Okay, so I've always been a Uconn fan. All right, but because I am from South Carolina, I do want Dawn to win. So that game for me, I was going to walk out the winner either way. Okay, I was going to be happy with whatever happened. South Carolina just ran into a better team. I don't think Dawn was necessarily out coached by Gino. I just think UConn just had the recipe. Okay, Carolina has kind of been playing up and down throughout that tournament, but UConn has been consistently good entire tournament. And we saw the UConn men's team do the same thing last year and then the 2 years prior to that. Sometimes when you run into that team that just has clicked at the right time, there's nothing that you can do. And like I said, I don't think Don was out coached. It was open shots that South Carolina had been making previously in the tournament. They were not making those same shots against UConn. And then UConn was capitalizing and making shots on the opposite side. And when your team's not hitting, then your team just isn't hitting, okay? But I mean, that was a tough loss for UConn. I'm sorry, that was a tough loss for South Carolina, and they are losing Bree Hall. They're losing Courtney Fagan, and they had another player that just entered the transfer portal. But Raven Johnson has decided to come back one more year, and I think that has something to do with just 3 days after their national championship loss, Carolina lands the number one player in the transfer portal, which is, and I hope I'm saying her name right, Tanaya Latson from Florida State, who averaged 25.6 points at Florida State last year. So she was the highest scorer in the entire women's basketball. And she will be joining the Gamecocks next year. Okay, so that basically South Carolina has reloaded. I mean, their draft class is also really good. I mean, we seen what their bench is, and we know that they play team ball, and they not only hit you with one wave, they hit you with two waves. Okay, so and I think that this lineup that Don Staley could possibly have next year is going to be so lethal. So Dawn has basically just reloaded, okay? She definitely took that loss personally. I mean, anybody would take a loss like that personally. But I'm excited to see where South Carolina will be at the start of next year. I'm also excited to see where UConn is going to be. And I just love the fact that the women's college basketball is growing at the pace that it is. And everyone is just locked in and ready to see who's going to be that next star, or who's going to be, that player that has that it factor, and who's going to be that team. And then also, let's not mention TCU just landed Olivia Miles from Notre Dame. People were shocked that she decided to leave Notre Dame, and now they're even shocked that she decided to choose TCU. But honestly, I think Olivia wants to be the star of the show, and she saw that TCU allowed Haley Van Lith to be the star of the show, and where that took Haley, and how Haley basically looks completely revitalized after her year at LSU, and Olivia is hoping to do the same thing when she gets to TCU. So I'm definitely going to continue to keep my eyes out on the transfer portal, because last time I checked, there are over 900 women's college basketball players that are in the transfer portal now. So I'm going to make sure to keep up and let you know where people land. and possibly see where some of these starting lineups are going to look like, because it's going to be very, very interesting to see. And I can't wait to watch the WNBA draft that's also coming up. And I can't wait for the WNBA season. That's also going to be exciting to watch, okay? Now, to the men's game. Not going to lie, you guys, I did not watch the men's as closely as I watched the women's game. But Florida had been the comeback kids of the tournament, basically, especially in the last two games. Um, I think Houston probably should have ran a better play at the end, but mistakes happen and things like that. But that was an exciting game, and I'm glad we got to see two good matchups back to back. And once again, there's a lot of players in the transfer portal right now for men's basketball. I haven't heard of any big signings yet and how that's going to go, but I'll make sure to keep an eye out on that for you guys. But let's talk about the NBA season. Okay. This has been, I honestly has to say, especially in the Western Conference, where nothing has been for certain except for the fact that OKC is going to be the number one seed in the Western Conference. Okay. So, um, we are coming down to the last 4 to 5 games of the season. The East is basically already decided. The Cavs are locking up the first seed they have a 4-game lead on the Celtics. So that's already cemented in 1 and 2. And everything else, 1 through 6 already locked in. They already know they're going to the playoffs on the East Coast. Now, the play-in tournament is going to be between the Magic, the Hawks, the Bulls, and the Heat. Now, if I had to take a guess, but I mean, anything can happen in these playoffs games, as we've seen for the last couple of years since this has even started. I honestly think the Heat and the Magic are going to be the two teams that land in the 7th and 8th spot going into the Eastern Conference playoffs, okay? And now, like I said, I'm going back to the West Coast because the East Coast is basically already decided. On the West, nothing has really been decided yet in terms of the fact that, like I said earlier, OKC is the number one seed, and they have looked like the best team in the NBA pretty much all season. Them and the Cavs have looked unbeatable, but I would say, to me, in the last month and a half, OKC has clearly shown me that they are the better team, and they are led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And I know the Clippers are kicking themselves in the butt right now for shipping him to OKC. I mean, he has really turned out to be a superstar. He went on a 65-game streak of scoring 20-plus points. And when you watch him play, it doesn't even look like he's scoring 20-plus points. It's like the most silent 24. Like, it's like the minute you look up, it's like, bam, 24. And you're like, I've been watching this game and it doesn't feel like he's been scoring that much. But he is one heck of a player. He's a great scorer. He's a great distributor. Shout out to Oklahoma for putting the right pieces around him that mesh well with him. To me, it's between him and Jokic that are going to win MVP of the season. Now, I honestly think Jokic might get the edge on that. But, I mean, SGA has arguably the best team in the NBA, so they might lean towards that way. But Jokic numbers and what he's doing, I mean, this man honestly could have won MVP last year too. Okay. But as far as the rest of the teams in the West, they are in there's a 4-way tie for 4th place between the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Warriors, and the Grizzlies. These are going to be some of the most intense games, regular season games, that we've seen in a long time in the NBA, because it really, like, losing one game can make you play in the play-in tournament. Like, that's how tough things are going to be for those teams to make sure that they do what they need to do so they can solidify a spot and not make it into the play-in. And also I want to give a shout out to the Golden State Warriors. Since the Jimmy Butler trade, they are, I believe, 25-6. I mean, that's one heck of a turnaround. He has really shown that he is that guy. Like, every team he has gone to when he first joins that team, I mean, he has immediate impact as soon as he gets there. And I don't think I've seen a player do that besides like the obvious ones, but he has really been that person for them. And then in the play-in tournament but it's even hard to decide that, but only team that has really said, okay, we're going to be in the play-in, everyone knows that, and that's the Kings and the Mavericks, okay? Everything between the 8th place and the 4th place teams, we won't know that until the end of the season. And how exciting is that as a viewer? You know how sometimes people said the NBA gets really boring towards the end of the seasons because teams already know who's going to be in and they start resting players, they shut players down, and it's not fun to watch anymore. And everyone just can't wait till the playoffs start so we can see everyone play their best basketball. No. These last 4 to 5 games, I am going to be locked in. And I hope you are going to be locked in because I'm talking about stars are going to be playing in these games. And they're probably going to be playing their best basketball before we even make it to the playoffs. As a viewer, I couldn't ask for anything better, especially from the Western Conference. Now, like I said, the Eastern Conference is already decided, okay? But the West is going to be very interesting to watch. Now, over to my producer.
You've got mail.
I think I see her staying and adapting and trying to find ways to grow. And the reason why I say that is because honestly, she's a competitor, from what I've seen. And I think we're going to see Dawn grow as a coach, meaning her teams aren't going to be as big heavy as they've previously been. But this is also going to be a time where she's going to have way more talent in her guards than we've seen her have talent in her guards before. And I think Dawn is such a good coach that she will be able to adapt. And I think she's a good person to where her girls want to stay with her and grow and become better players, and learn to fit the system. Because let's be honest, Latson had to score 26 points a game at Florida State. She's not going to have to score that many points with South Carolina. So I think even Latson is going to grow as a player. She's going to go from having to have the ball in her hands and having to make a play to, if it so happens to land in her hand and she's able to make a play, she will. And I think we kind of see where Uconn had 3 players that they could easily go to score. And South Carolina played way more team ball than necessarily, not to say that Uconn didn't play team ball, but Uconn clearly had 3 pure scorers on their team. And that's what won them the natty against a team that's more team ball oriented. And if you look at that, those 3 players in AZ Fudd, Sarah Strong, and Paige Buckers, they show that you can have 3 players who can easily ball dominant, play well together. And I think Dawn is the coach that can have South Carolina do the same thing that we saw Uconn do. And who knows, she might even be able to do it better because I think she has more talent than what Gino had outside his big 3. So I think Malaysia stays. I think Dawn finds a way to continue to make everyone happy with playing time because she had the highest scoring bench in the nation by over 20 points. I see her continuing that trend next year. And I think Malaysia, that loss hurt her because that's her biggest loss that she's faced. And I see her using that as motivation to get better. And who better of a coach to motivate you and get you ready for the next season than Dawn Staley?
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's
all we had in the email bag today.
Okay. What do you think about it, Mr. Producer?
I think that a lot of the Malaysia football talk is much ado about nothing. I think that she's young. She's a sophomore, and people want to already christen her. But I don't think she's quite there yet. I think that for her to be successful, because I don't think Dawn has had a dud that made the WNBA yet.
Nope.
I think everybody she's gotten there has done very well for themselves. Um, winning, I think winning is a skill
Mhm.
as well. And what Malaysia kind of went through was last year she wasn't as big of a component to the winning as she was this year.
Right.
And so she made some mistakes in the game, was lackadaisical with the ball at times. And then she ended up picking it up, towards the end of the game. You saw her kind of gain her confidence. Although the game was somewhat out of reach, you kind of saw her gain her confidence, and she started to make some plays that I thought that maybe she should have made early in the game.
Same.
But it's difficult sometimes when you're trying to find, as a young player, trying to find the balance between the discipline of the set and the instincts that your talent have gotten you there.
Right.
The instincts of your talent. So I think she has to find the balance of, okay, I got to run the set. Oh, I see something. Let me go now, rather than waiting till there is no set to go. So I just think that she's just got to grow. And I think that if she does come back, I think she is a starter. I think that star lineup is strong.
Yep.
I think that Tanaya comes in and she does not have to have the ball as much. And although the offense does run through the bigs, I think they do a lot of split action and some other actions off that that's going to get them open. But I do think Tanaya shoots the ball better than Malaysia does as far as shooting. I think Malaysia probably can score the basketball, but shooting the basketball, I think Tanaya does a better job of it. So, I mean, it still remains to be seen, but I don't think, Malaysia's home, Colombia's her city. Mom loves it. She gets the royalty treatment. I just don't see, I guess what everybody's saying she should, sometimes that seeps into your brain, and then you almost go to, like, where are you going to go, like, other than Uconn?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to go and put up these godly numbers, but it's out of Uconn and South Carolina every year, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? Except for, you had LSU sprinkled in there, Tennessee kind of sprinkled in there, Iowa sprinkled in there. Yeah, but the consistent teams over the last 12 years have been South Carolina and Uconn.
And we were hoping with Juju, but Juju may be out all next season.
But then, like I said, that's another thing to a player rather than a team, because people in this amazing run by Uconn, people kind of discount the fact that a key component of South Carolina was out. Ashley was out.
Yeah.
Like she had been out for months, and and Dawn said she's never going to make that an excuse, because every coach is going to say the same thing. That's not an excuse, but she'll be back,
right?
And then you're looking at that roster and you're going, okay, UConn is returning a lot, but South Carolina's the deeper team. Yeah. Now, will UConn continue to build? Yeah. Are people going to transfer there? Yeah, but I don't know if they're going to have a starting five that's going to be able to match that starting five that they're going to have in Carolina.
Anyone in women's college basketball is going to have starting five that's going to,
and tonight,
especially if they all stay healthy for the entire
what is
year.
Tanaya? Tanaya is what class is she?
This was her junior year, so she'll be a senior next year.
She'll be a senior next year. Yeah, so, I mean, who's to say she doesn't get a second year? I mean, but if she gets 2 years there, even if she gets one, that's with a young team. Ashlyn, what's the girl from Canada? Joyce Edwards, Malaysia Fulwiley, Tanaya. Like, I mean, Tessa, and the beat goes on. I just don't see. And UConn, of course, like you said, there's probably some people on the bench who are good. I thought number 4 off the bench, she gave them a huge spark.
Oh yeah, KK Arnold.
KK Arnold, yeah. KK Arnold was cooking.
She was.
When she came in the game, and
she all throughout the year, she has been that spark plug.
Yeah.
Anytime that they were in big games, when she was in the game, momentum always shift.
Yeah.
Because defensively, and the one thing I think Malaysia really needs to work on is consistency in all aspects of her. Because that's really like the one thing that as a viewer I see that I'm kind of like, I understand why Dawn doesn't start her, or I understand why she's not getting 25 minutes a game, because it's like when she's on, she's on. But when she's off, it's like when she's off, it's kind of detrimental to the team.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
but I think, like you said, she's just gotta. It's growth through. This is the only way to grow. Usually, is through failure. So, like, think about, and like they were talking about it at the end of the broadcast. They were like, "Yeah, these girls, South Carolina has lost, but the resume that these girls are going into the next, it's coming off a back-to-back. No. Two
and 3 years.
2 and 3 years. So they, in their 4 years in college, they got 2 rings. You know what I mean? Have lost.
They went to 4 Final Fours.
Went to 4 Final Fours. They don't know what not being in the Final Four looks like.
No.
They don't even know what that is. Like, go home early. What are you talking about? Like, we're used to playing now.
Only class, honestly, only class that could rival that South Carolina class are some of the classes from Uconn.
Yeah. I mean,
in terms of like that Maya Moore and Tina Charles class, and then what Brianna Stewart and her class did. But like that goes to show, like, you have to mention that class in that conversation with
the people that they've had over the last 4 years in these teams.
I mean, because they're the best. They're the best 2 teams. Like, barring injuries, because that's really what held UConn back these last couple years is injuries, and then only having 2 people that's able to come off the bench because you got 5 players that are out for the season.
Yeah.
Like, so, and I think that's why UConn was able to get over that hump this year, is because this is the healthiest that they've ever been. But what South Carolina is bringing next year, like it.
It's gonna be tough to say.
It's gonna be real tough.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, but UConn as well is returning a good bit.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a sorry. It's just gonna be good. I would like to see a rematch.
Me too. I would love to see a rematch, and I honestly think that we're gonna get one, but we kind of got to see where some of these players are going to land from the portal, and how that's going to work. And also, not even to mention Chloe Kitt's little sister is also in the transfer portal, and she's 6'5". She's taller than Chloe.
Yeah.
And she had to sit out pretty much this entire year from Florida. But who's to say she doesn't decide that she wants to play with her sister for a year? And we get to see how maybe that even goes, because South Carolina is losing 2 bigs this year.
Yeah. Whew. Well, it remains to be seen.
But I'm excited. I'm so excited. It's like a kid in a candy store. That's how excited I am. And I hope you guys are as excited as I am. Once again, I am Kayla Ali. This is the Ali Perspective. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, okay? And I can't wait to see you guys back here next week.